Hello, hello. Welcome to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, where our intention is to provide you with impactful, educational, and realistic information to help you progress on your journey to live wellness on purpose now and for future generations. This podcast shares insights to current health trends with industry and brand leaders in the health and wellness world. This podcast is brought to you by Joanne's Place Health Foods from Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario. My name is Marissa Lachlan. I'm a holistic nutritionist and functional lab practitioner. I've been working alongside Joanne's Place for the last 8 years, and I'm so excited to continue to be your host for this podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. So if you've ever been into our Lansdowne location at Joanne's Place, we have a beautiful wood top cosmetic table. It is like this beautiful table where everybody just gravitates towards because it's so pretty. It has like stunning products on it, and it's just like very pretty and, positive. Everywhere in the store is like that, but I just like this cosmetic table really brings that like beauty feel, okay? And on this display, we have an even more beautiful display of the new launch of the AnneMarie Borlind makeup. And their new branding is gorgeous. And if you've never heard of AnneMarie Borlind before, they really are the pioneers of natural skincare, natural cosmetics, because they've been around since 1959, which is absolutely incredible. They are really a tried and true brand in our industry. And even better than that, they're from Europe. And if you know anything about Europe, they have the top regulations when it comes to anything health and wellness, and not even necessarily health and wellness. They just have higher standards there. They have a higher way of living. They just have a better work-life balance. Anything in Europe is just, it's always better. So from Europe, this AnneMarie Borlind brand has rebranded some of their skincare and makeup products. And we really want to highlight why these products are so superior and why they are of high quality, what ingredients are in there, what ingredients are not in there, how to make the transition from conventional skincare and makeup over to more natural, and why you should start getting that ball rolling today. So I needed somebody from the AnneMarie Borlind team to join me and really talk about the brand and what to expect with the products in terms of performances and pigmentation, things like that. So we have a AnneMarie product trainer and educator, Dayna Johanson, who's joining us to really talk about this brand in depth and also guide us all in how to pick the best foundation and start to make this transition to the natural cosmetic space starting today. So without further ado, join me in welcoming Dayna onto the podcast today. Hello, Dayna. Thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for having me on here.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to have you join us today because we're going to talk about our number one natural cosmetic line that we sell at Joanne's Place in our store, and that is AnneMarie Borlind. And they are known as the pioneer of natural cosmetics. And I would love to start by just talking about who AnneMarie Borlind is as a brand.
Okay, great. So it is a German brand. I always like letting people know, and I think most people are aware that Europe just has way better standards. It just has, whether that's food, whether that's health stuff, like just in general, how they just even consider how they formulate things, what to do with the environment. Europe's just totally different than North America is. So I always like to let people know it's a European brand, which gives it a heads up anyways. But so AnneMarie Linder is actually her name. So the woman who is the face of AnneMarie Borlind, her name is AnneMarie Linder. And she matched, her and her husband got into business with Herman Borner. And I am Canadian and they are German. I'm going to destroy the pronunciation. But it's the combination of Linder and Borner that makes Borlind. It started because AnneMarie had terrible skin problems when she was young. And she's born, quite some time ago. She passed away in I believe the 90s. So she was quite young. It was during World War II. She had terrible skin problems as she was getting into puberty, a young woman, and was trying desperately to figure out how to solve her own things. And I myself included, like a lot of people get into this line of work is very selfish at first. You get into it for you. And then when you realize how to go about it, you like to help everybody else. And that's what she did. She did for her. And then she became an early version of like a cosmetologist. And then she just decided, you know what? The best things that she ever found for her face were more natural ingredients. And she had cystic acne. So it really helped calm things down and get under control with antiseptic. So she started making her own products. By January 1st, 1959, the company launched. That's when AnneMarie Borlind actually was like, hey, yeah, we founded this. And it's been around ever since the 50s. So yeah.
That's amazing. It's so rare to find brands that have been standing tall for that long. And it really goes to show the formulations, the quality, the way in which they listen to their consumers. And as you said, being a European brand, the standards in Europe are like something that unfortunately Canada cannot even touch. They are just
Yeah.
so far in advancement for things. And it just puts a little bit more trust in those types of brands that aren't necessarily, Canadian. So I love that. Now I want to kind of dive into the term natural, because this can be quite controversial as it's not necessarily a regulated term, but
It's a
it is
completely unregulated term.
exactly. But it is a way in which we can categorize cosmetic brands to be more natural as opposed to conventional. So can you talk about what we are talking about in terms of a natural cosmetic brand?
Sure. So, I mean, when you're dealing with any makeup skincare, you have to call it something. There is conventional, there is natural, there is medical, and those are the general terms thrown around. But yeah, natural, there naturally is anything. You could have a chemical product, but naturally a foundation's a foundation, naturally a lipstick's a lipstick. But whether or not the ingredients are natural is something else. Canada, North America, we are very influenced by America. America is very high on marketing. So we are high on marketing. The term suggestive marketing, or that's what they use, suggestive marketing, which is that you take something that has a meaning, it really truly has a meaning other places, and you use it in relation to yours, and you're allowing the consumer to decide for themselves what that something is. That it's like light mayonnaise, but it's spelled Lite. It's a completely fake name. It's not even a word, but it gives us the impression for us to decide it means low calorie. you know so yeah, the term natural is thrown around so much. So what I usually tell people is look at the country it comes from, look at the company it comes from, what is natural there. And it can be very hard in North America to trust that one of our companies really is natural. But in Europe, when they say natural, it's by a long standard. Long standard of that means it is natural products going into that have been done a certain way with certain regulations, that there is an entire business of making sure that natural ingredients are formulated correctly, that they are scientifically put together, that they are effective. And so then, yeah, like it's easier going with European brands because it's a long-standing, actual, real term there. Here it's unregulated. There it is more understood. When they say that, they have a lot more legal things that they have to adhere to. So when they say natural, they do mean natural. They in the sense that we would like to have it be, that it comes from nature.
Yes, in its most natural form, less chemicals that are deriving it, things like that. So we
Yeah,
know that.
not man-made. You can have where it's man influenced. And I like letting people know that when you're taking something, like I really dislike when people are like, oh, I make my own stuff in my kitchen. Like, everyone can do whatever the heck they want. That is up to you. But I would never in a million years open my fridge and smear stuff on my face and think it's doing anything other than just potentially giving me dermatological problems. So you can have roses and algae, and you can have all kinds of things from all over the earth, and you can synthesize it, a natural thing, and help it be the most effective. Because if it's not getting through the epidermis into the dermis into cells, then you're just smearing stuff on your face. So it should be man influenced, but it should not be
Yes.
man made.
Very, very good point, because we know that we've got natural, we've got the term crunchy that we see used. That's very much like those putting yogurt on the face, things like that. So I'm glad you brought attention to that. And when it comes to looking at natural products, as you said, it's really important to look at what's in it and where it comes from, because we know that those ingredient lists and those standards can vary. And on some products, ingredient lists can literally be a mile long, 20 plus, 30 plus different ingredients in there. And it can be hard to decipher what could be natural versus what could be synthetic, what could be man altered, things like that. So in your professional opinion, what would you say are some top ingredients that you feel are most important to try to avoid in cosmetics and skincare products that wouldn't necessarily be in alignment with that natural approach for cosmetics and makeup?
Sure. So very first, I'll back up just a time because I really liked how you'd said that beforehand with the ingredient list. And I always like to let people know with this, because that is one of the complaints of AnneMarie Borlind. In North America, like because we're so confused, we're so inundated with marketing, and so much is opinion and skewed test results and things that are not correct. And then we're just left being like, I just don't even know. And you get really overwhelmed. And so then you get where people make really bad assumptions that something's the way to go, like that you should be able to understand every single ingredient on a list. That is not necessarily true, because if you're looking at natural, I don't know Latin. I'm assuming you don't know how to speak Latin.
Yes.
All botanical words are Latin. So just by definition, you shouldn't really understand it unless you understand botanical names. So when you're looking at things like that, it's already immediately misleading. Exactly, just right at that point. AnneMarie Borlind has enormous ingredient lists, like huge. They're so huge. But what they have is something called the complete disclosure of ingredients, meaning it's not just that they've taken a rose and thrown it in a vat and used it. You have to extract a rose. Well, there's an entire distillation process. So what are the ingredients within the distillation? Well, that's going to be water. It's probably going to be alcohol. It's going to be different things like that. So then when you have a complete disclosure of ingredients, you've taken, okay, these are the ingredients we're using in the formula, but how did those ingredients get made? So now we're actually backing up and putting every single thing that's ever been into the entire process of making the ingredients that then made the product. So when people look at that, it can be very overwhelming, and it can be huge when you're looking at the ingredient list. But that's the company. Once again, it's looking at the company, it's looking at what their mottos and what their ethics are. And so AnneMarie Borlind likes to have where from literally start to finish exactly what's in there. There's a lot of alcohol that they say in their product lines, but it's from distillation. It's been evaporated off. So that's one thing I always like to say right away, because that is definitely something I hear all the time with AnneMarie Borlind is, why is the list so big? But besides that, then getting into the actual ingredients to avoid, it's up for debate, 100% up for debate. The main reason being because for your age, for your skin problems, for your achievement. And I always say that to people when they come to me and they say, well, what should I use? I said, well, what do you want out of skincare? Your dream, if you were to say to me, my goal is, and it's, I want to get rid of freckles. Okay, great. Then we need to go there. Is I need hydration. Well, then we need to go there. I want to reduce pore size. I want to reduce aging. Fine, we can do that. But most people, it's all of it. They want everything. I want everything and more. But then, okay, so then you want everything. But for your age group, we're going to have to look at different products. For your financial abilities, we have to look at different products. And for any problems you might have, we have to look at different products. So then that's when you can have, or say, like, you have someone who's allergic to vitamin C that comes from citrus fruits, like oranges, lemons, grapefruit, but maybe they can use yuzu or kiwi or bearberry. So there's so many reasons why you do and do not choose things. And something I would tell someone with acne prone skin might be like, do not ever use this for you. But someone that has anti-aging and dry skin, maybe be like, but 100% you should use this. In general, though, what I tell people, if they're like, well, okay, what is something that no matter what, universally just avoid that? Talc is a good one to talk about.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because no one in the world can have asbestos go into them and have it's not going to cause a problem, quite possibly cancer, most likely. And so that's a good one, just as a rule of thumb. But talc is not the problem. And talc is not dangerous. It is that talc and asbestos naturally kind of like they form together. So where there's a talc deposit, there's almost exactly going to be an asbestos deposit, and they are so close together. It can be with the mining of talc where it's impossible to not have contamination. And so that becomes the problem. Not all talc deposits in the world have asbestos. It just depends on where it is, but a lot of them do. So then it's the asbestos that's a problem. And so then you have to make sure if you're using talc products that it is from a company that has done extreme levels of making sure that it's refined. And that's generally European. And Germany has the highest standards of all of Europe. They have talc refining facilities where they make sure that asbestos is out of there and that the workers are safe and that it's behind closed areas and that there is no contamination that can happen. So that when you're using a talc-based product that comes, say, AnneMarie Borlind, they do still use talc, but it is guaranteed, like it's not going to cause problems. You're not going to have asbestos in there. So that
Amazing.
one's one I say, be careful, but also once again for debate, it's not that talc's bad. Look at the company, look at the country.
Yes, for sure. And that's a big one because we have had this question before with some AnneMarie Borlind products. But I mean, at the store, we have a printout that talks exactly about what you just said. You know, it's so important to understand farther beyond the label, the brand, where it's coming from. Are they doing third-party testing for those types of metals and synthetic ingredients we kind of want to avoid? So that is so glad I'm so glad you brought that up.
The other one I say is generally in eye products, and that one is the coal tar. Coal tar to be the black pigmentation that is normally in mascaras and eyeliners, because coal tar eats away at things. It's corrosive. So then when you have a normal mascara, say like a drugstore brand mascara, and a conventional one, and you cry, you're in the wind, you're outside where it's cold, and you get that little drip, and you're like, oh, and you can't even open your eyes. You're like, oh, the pain, like the pain of it. That's coal tar. And so then it was the traditional ingredient in tinting when you have like tinted lashes. And that was used in around well, it was banned in the 60s because it was blinding women. That because not always when you're tinting do you have where it doesn't get in your eyes, but you have to keep it on for 7 minutes, then reapply and keep it on for another 7. But then it was severely damaging people's sight and blinding people. So then that is never, no eye should ever have coal tar near it. And it is the #1 black pigmentation for all conventional mascaras and eyeliners, which is why it burns when it gets in your eyes. So mineral black is by far the preferred way to go. That's why when I use my AnneMarie Borlind liners and mascaras, I can cry in a sad movie. And yeah, sure, it's maybe like, oh, I've got grit in my eye. It's a little irritating, like to have like where like maybe a chunk's fallen off, but I will not be blinded by it. You know,
Yes.
it's just like when like anything, like you get a little piece of dirt in there. It's not going to burn, but it's going to be like, oh, I just need to get that out. So I can just go quickly rinse my eyes and there is no problems. So that's the other one I like to talk about.
Yeah, I actually had no idea about that for
Mm.
conventional mascara. And you would think, I mean, there's so much controversy and like regulations in terms of like natural healthcare products with natural cosmetics, like so many little things, but not one person talks about the fact that that's the main ingredient in conventional that could cause blindness. That is
It's the pigment.
unbelievable.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's why I tell people that's why it burns. Because
Yes,
it's
so
actually
dangerous.
burning. It literally is burning your eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good to know. So let's stay on the conversation about natural makeup
Yeah.
and the AnneMarie Borlind natural makeup line. Now, the #1 question I get when people are transitioning from conventional makeup to natural makeup is the performance of it.
Performance. Yeah.
Is it going to
Will
hold
it
up?
last?
How long? What type of coverage? So can you talk a little bit about this in terms of the AnneMarie Borlind cosmetic line?
Yeah, for sure. Now there is, and I don't like this, but there is a whole kind of thing within the natural cosmetic line, especially in North America, where they're just assuming everyone is very hippie and they don't really want to look like they're wearing makeup. I wear all natural makeup and I wear a full face. And if I'm putting makeup on, you better know that I'm putting makeup on because I spend a lot of time putting it on. I'm one of those people, but I don't like bad ingredients. And also, it can never have been tested on an animal, which is where I went into the entire, that's what made me get into this. I like makeup. I'm a makeup artist. I expect to have performance, but there is just that unwavering thing where it's like even when you go to a place like a fast food restaurant and you get a soy burger that there's assuming you want it full of alfalfa sprouts and like a whole grain bun. You're like, I want a burger, I just don't want the meat. Right. I find that that's the big thing, that's the problem with natural cosmetics. Everyone assumes that is like there is no performance. It's just, oh yeah, you're putting a little something on, I just want that like little something. Not everyone wants a little something. Some people want a big something. So then yes, once again, it's all about when you're dealing with natural, it's all about the saturation of pigments, whether it's how much minerals are going in something, if it's a mineral line, or about the concentration of pigment that they use for coloring. Natural pigments, always, but yeah, it's just about how much. Most things, like say if it's only a little something, it's mainly a moisturizer that just has a slight bit of tinting in there. But then you can have something where it's like a full masking of makeup where it's like, you can completely change the way your skin looks. So many different brands are excellent and they have great performance. In fact, a number of them are made by makeup artists who just were like, I'm so sick of putting this garbage on models and then having where they're getting a rash by the time they walk down the runway or something like that. Besides the fact that people, when they get to a certain level of fame, like actors and actresses, can be well known of, you do not put anything on my face unless it's natural. And there's some of them like Gwyneth Paltrow and Jennifer Aniston are well known of being like, it has to have these qualities. So then if you're going to do that for movie makeup, it better have performance. AnneMarie Borlind has always done that. Keep in mind, it started off by a woman who has cystic acne. So then it had to have performance. It had to be skincare that worked, and it had to be makeup when they started making that actually worked. Because most of the time when you're looking at a foundation, you want full coverage is because you have a problem. You have rosacea, you have eczema, you have acne, you have old scarring, you have different things that you want covered. Well, then you better have coverage and performance. And the big one, and I always tell people this when they're like, it doesn't matter what I put on my face, it's always gone a couple hours later. I said, is it because you're always doing
Mm-hmm.
this or rubbing? I said, because a lot of people actually take off their own makeup, rubbing their eyes into being face touchers.
It's so true. Or they have their phone up to their
Yep.
face. That's a
Or
big one too.
they love snuggling in their clothes, and you can watch people do it. So a number of times when people have said like, what, I like, and I've had this tons of times at different places I've worked. It's like, you said this would last all day and it barely lasts a couple hours. I was like, okay, put mittens on. I don't care what time of year it is, put mittens on, because we get so used to the feel of something, we don't know that we're doing it anymore until you change the dynamic, until you change what's happening. So if you put mittens on your hands, all of a sudden it doesn't feel like your hand anymore. And you can be very aware that you can't stop touching your face. So that's
Yes.
going to take away the performance of something because you're literally wiping it off. But good quality natural makeup should be just as good, better, whatever is conventional, because it's all about, is it a makeup artistry palette? And that's the number one thing. If it's considered a makeup artistry palette, it means it has to have performance and coverage because you are doing it for a makeup artistry, not just for general day-to-day wear. And AnneMarie Borlind has a makeup artistry palette.
Good. Amazing. It's so true, that natural habit of like touching your face all the time. I think I've done it like 20 times since we've been on this call already. Like it's so natural to do that. Now, would you say that also in terms of like the wear of your makeup is dependent on what that base layer is before you put on makeup? Like if you have a really good skincare routine as well, or do you think it's still, going to give good wear, even if you're not necessarily prioritizing like hydration and things like that?
It's not going to make it perform, it's not going to make it last longer, but it will make it perform better in the sense of, if you have skin that is compromised or dry or whatever, it will affect how it goes on.
Okay.
So if you don't have your skin at a certain point, you're just not going to have a good application. And then you tend to fuss and everything. And one of the big ones about that is you look at people whose skin is too dry. Like maybe they use acne products where it's really high in isopropanol, like rubbing alcohol, and they have that like flaky, dry, like almost snake snake skin, kind of like where it's peely. Well, it doesn't matter what you put on, it's going to look terrible because your skin is compromised. So it is not like the most important part of that, but in a different way. So, and also, like if you're using a good quality makeup, generally a good quality makeup should also be skincare. And so then it goes along really well with the skincare you're using because you're doing it for a reason. If you're using high coverage foundation because you have acne, then you should probably be using acne products, but not ones that are high in isopropanol. This is going to exacerbate, make more oils and give you more acne, but ones where it's antiseptic and soothing and calming and getting rid of the bacteria and taking away the inflammation that's happening so you don't have as big of pustules. So what skincare you use is incredibly important to your makeup, but not necessarily the length of it. The biggest thing that's going to happen with the length of it is how you're setting it. And part of that I'll say is like a lot of people will use powder because they like that finished look, but foundation is what's supposed to change your skin and powder sets it. So the powder is what makes it stay on. And when you look at people who say like, I can't put mascara on because a couple hours later it's everywhere. Well, you have oily lids. So then if you put a setting powder on your lid before you do any makeup, then it's absorbing the oils coming out, and that will keep you from having raccoon eyes in a couple hours and making and then extending the length of your eyeliner and your eyeshadow and your mascara. So a lot of it's just about putting on things to absorb oils and setting it properly afterwards.
Okay, those are all really, really great tips. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that your makeup choices should have some type of skincare ingredients because it's so important. They do support each other, but also
Well, and don't
the
work against yourself. If you have
yeah,
acne, don't put on something that's going to give you acne.
exactly. And also, we know that the industry of natural cosmetics has kind of boomed, I would say, in the
Oh,
last like 5 years,
100%.
majorly
Yeah.
boomed. And with that comes also, an increase in price, an increase in demand. And I think with people paying what they're paying for makeup, that brand should also be taking into consideration the skincare aspect. So I love that AnneMarie Borlind does that. And I would love to know how AnneMarie Borlind is continuously showing up in this natural cosmetic space to continue with these changing trends in the beauty industry. Like we're seeing so much on sustainability, different types of certifications. And I mean, we already know it's top tier being from Europe, but how else is AnneMarie Borlind continuing to kind of show up and be pioneers in this natural cosmetic world?
So the funny thing is, they've never not been it. They've
Yeah.
always been it since the 50s, before it was even a company. She was trying to figure out, that's why they exist in the Black Forest. She was going around and trying to figure out what in the Black Forest could do what for different types of skin issues. They're the only company that is 100% residing in the Black Forest. The Black Forest is incredibly preserved and extremely protected, but they live in it. And to have been part of that meant that early on, well before a lot of places did it, they had to look at the pollution they were putting out, what they were doing that would affect it, because it can't be protected, but you're polluting it at the same time. So so they had all this kind of stuff that really early on, she was a big believer in natural stuff. She was a big believer that there's never been animal testing ever that's been used. At times when it was, you had to basically to be in North America. Like it was like, well, why wouldn't you just rub that in rabbit's eyes? It's like it just never happened. It was like, well, why should we do that? And so there's so many things that it's just never happened with them. It's always been high quality natural ingredients. It's always been based on nature. It's always been based on that things shouldn't be tortured to have it perform, that if good quality ingredients are in there, well, you don't have to test how bad it is on something because it's just good. But also that how much pollution is happening, that they go around every day and pick up fallen debris from the Black Forest, so they're not cutting down trees because then they can use that in their packaging. Like, so really ultimately what I like to say is the world's caught up to AnneMarie Borlind. They're just trucking along doing what they always do. It's like the tortoise and the hare. They've just been steadily always going one way. And everyone else has been like, you know what? That's a really good idea. They've had sustainability practices and different things that they've been doing in the world, like the roses for opium in Iran, and getting different things from Africa and from like helping with Bangladesh, and all the ingredients they get that they can't naturally get in Germany and in the Black Forest, it has to come from somewhere. So they have major projects all over the world to get like coconut oil and to get marula and to get all kinds of stuff. And they go into the areas and they really help those areas. And they don't even really advertise about it. It's what, it's just something that's important to the company. And one of the things I like to say about that is because it's never not been in their family. AnneMarie Borlind gave it to her son. His son gave it to his kids. It is the same one family that's only ever had AnneMarie Borlind, and they all stick by the same practices, being that everything should be there to help.
Yes, that is
Yeah.
so, I love that. And it's so interesting because sustainability has obviously become a huge
Oh,
topic
yeah.
everywhere,
How can we
right?
have done this to the world since plastic became around? Like, this is a
Yeah.
very short time for how long it's been around. Look what we've done in such a short time. It's
Yeah.
really impressive, but in all the worst ways.
I know, I know. And I think one of the biggest things about sustainability is that, and I really think this is a misconception, is being in Canada, we are always looking for Canadian made products, which, don't get me wrong, I think that is amazing. However, what people don't see farther than a Canadian made product is where the source of that ingredient or those ingredients are coming from. So we'll see like people and brands advertise that their products are all Canadian, but they're getting coconut oil. Well, we know that coconuts don't grow in
It's not
Canada.
from here.
So it's not,
Like,
it's not a Canadian, it's maybe a Canadian brand, but it's not necessarily Canadian ingredients.
oh, same as like 95% of all the world's lavender comes from a few farms in one area of France. And people are
Exactly.
like, oh, well, I grow some lavender here. You're like, you have no idea the lavender farms in France. Like, it all comes from there. And like rose farms and all kinds of, you have to outsource. So it's
Yes,
maybe put together in Canada, but it is not from there. And
absolutely.
yes, absolutely get local, but we have to be global in a lot of
Yes.
ways to
Yes.
have the things that we want.
Yes, because part of sustainability is also profitability, and we need to continue
100%.
to keep those areas, in France for lavender or in Thailand or wherever else we're getting ingredients also profitable. So there's a whole bigger conversation to be had there, but I really
100%.
love that you shared that AnneMarie Borlind is outsourcing to the best quality with, the best ingredients. So I love
And
that.
you should go on, anyone watching should go on YouTube and see, like, just like go on YouTube and just put in like sustainability projects, AnneMarie Borlind, and they'll go into depth about it. Because what they also do is that they work with the women of the areas, because poor countries with very little to no contraception. And they found that the woman is usually the backbone of the family and of the town. And they really like that, like the local and then global type thing. They help their family, then their extended family, and then the town, and they tend to work together better. So they, AnneMarie Borlind, in places where women don't have jobs, they don't have a lot of voice. Yeah, they do it
That's
fab.
amazing. I will leave a link for that video
Yeah.
on YouTube in our description below so
Oh,
that our
it's
listeners
wonderful.
can quickly access that. So great. I mean, we could talk forever on
Oh,
sustainability, but
mhm.
I want to talk about AnneMarie Borlind products in particular, and more in particular in
Well,
terms of the
and their
foundation.
new packaging, because their new packaging has a lot to
Yes,
do with that.
it
And I know
is.
you were going to ask me about that.
It is stunning. It is so gorgeous. I love the applications. I love the branding, the simplicity. I love it all. However, there's one thing I'm a little confused on, and I would love for you to clarify, is there's a few different foundation and coverage options. So how can you, best describe the different types of foundation and coverages, and like, what's the difference between them all?
In a nutshell, what I always do when I ask people about, like, when they're like, well, what foundation should I use? I was like, okay, what's your issue? How much coverage do you want? Do you want like a Kardashian look, or do you want to have like just a little something kind of look? And you kind of go from there. And most people are like, I want like a medium, and that tends to be like most people, the Goldilocks and the baby bear, They like it kind of just right, just in the middle. But each one is made for something very different. So then you have stuff like BB creams and CC creams and tinted moisturizers that are similar and completely different all at the same time. And they're more for people that want a little something.
Okay.
So and that's where you get like oil rich, oil free, you get a number of things like that. And then high coverage. Of course, well, what are you looking for? So say like for AnneMarie Borlind specifically, they now have a whole bunch of new launches too. So they have, and I love this one. I just wish it came in my color because I'm so pale. People too dark and too pale, we have really hard times finding the right colors. And I'm the too pale. So they have a little compact. It's called the cream makeup compact. And it's a 3-in-1. And that was really popular in the 90s, having a 3-in-1 where it's a cream to powder finish. So it's not a powder. It looks like and feels like a cream, but it's a cream to powder. Okay. So it's a concealer, it's a foundation, and it's a powder in one. And I like selling that for people who want a high coverage, that are going on vacation, or say like that they're going to an event where you're going to be wearing a lot of makeup, like Christmas party or wedding or something like that. And, or that you have a very tight budget. And you're like, I can't get a foundation and a powder in one. I got $50. What can I get for this? So there's lots of reasons why you would maybe choose that one, because it can go so much farther. And it's great for, say, like, I'm a big fan when you're traveling to have where things aren't going in that one teeny little bag of liquids. To have something that's like you're loud carrying it in your purse, that makes all the difference in the world sometimes when you're trying to go somewhere. So, but then say like there's the two main foundations. One of them is in a really beautiful little glass bottle, and it's a cream rich, the high coverage one for aged skin. And it's got the same ingredients of their cosmeceutical line, which is something that's not normally found in natural stores. It's a whole other ball game that's sold in like cosmetic spots. So, and it's the Nature Royale. And it has been an extremely proven, very amazing product line that AnneMarie Borlind has, that has been shown to work extremely well. And so their foundation for aged skin has that. It has the same ingredients. Then there's the one that's the anti-aging makeup. That one, that's called the anti-aging makeup, specifically there for you to see for anti-aging. But then there's the fluid makeup. And that one is more of a hydrating makeup. So that one's for a drier skin, a younger skin, and also an oily skin, because the more hydrated you are, the less oil you produce. Less oil you produce, then the less breakout you get. And also the longer it will stay on your skin. So the fluid makeup is more about actually just having hyaluronic acid in there to go in and soothe the production of oils. It's the makeup anyone can use. Anyone can use that one. Younger, older, whatever. It just depends what you're wanting. Then there's the BB cream, which is oil free, or basically pretty much oil free. So for people who want an oil free makeup, maybe you just can't stand the feel of something. I like using that one on like my neck and chest in the summer because it's a mineral makeup and it won't get on my clothes. So then if I'm going somewhere hot, like say somewhere really humid where you're like, oh, there's enough moisture in there, I do not need anything more being greasy. So that one, because it is a BB cream. BB stands for beauty balm. And generally it means it's like a 5-in-1. So it's usually a primer, and AnneMarie Borlind's, this one definitely is. It's a primer, it's a makeup, it's a lightweight moisturizer, it's a sunscreen, it's and it's a hydrator.
Okay.
So yeah, and then there is the new tinted moisturizer, and the tinted moisturizer is oil rich. So it's very much like the BB cream that gives you only some. I like to say to people, it's the polar opposite. You have that you don't want the oils or you do want the oils. But they work very similar. It's just one's oil rich.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Yeah. So it really depends on what your skin
100%.
type is and what you're looking to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can have someone who's extremely acne prone, but they're just so afraid of makeup that they just want a little something and they don't care. And you're like, yeah, sure. They want it more like skincare. They want more like a tinted moisturizer. They're like, I just want a little something because little something's always good, but I just don't use makeup anymore. I'm done. I'm done with it. You're like, yeah, sure. No problem. In which case the BB cream would be good.
BB cream would be good. Okay. So in the new display we have at the store, there are two products that look and feel like foundation. They come in like a pink aluminum squeeze. What is that product?
That's the tinted moisturizer.
That's a tinted moisturizer. Okay, perfect.
Oh, and there is another one. So sorry, they have several new products, and that one might actually be the Nature Wear. If there's, is there two colors of that one?
There's only two. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's the Nature Wear. So that's a brand new one. That one's for younger skin that has a medium coverage. Is a luminous. It's a very like the sun, the beautiful like dewy, beautiful like fresh face complexion. So that one's for that. It's preventative aging.
Okay. I put like a little bit on my hand and I was like, oh, there's only two shades. I'm fair. So I'm
Yeah,
like, it's not going to do it. But it like adapts to your skin tone.
yeah.
It is like so beautiful. As you said, that nice, like bright, luminous. I actually love the texture of that one. It's so nice.
And one other thing I should say, especially with foundation too, I always ask people what they're using it for. Because if you get people that are doing it for photography, for weddings, for events, you might have where someone's coming, they really don't use makeup very much. They're just like, I'm just, I'm starting a YouTube channel. I'm doing a podcast. I'm starting something like this. And they maybe don't know makeup, they don't, whatever. It only takes one or so times being online with the wrong makeup to be like, oh, wow, I've made a terrible mistake because dewy makeup makes you look greasy.
Yep.
And so matte makeup is better for online for photography, which is why Kardashians are always matte
Yeah.
because they've always got the camera here, right? So then matte is for social things, like
Okay.
social being like online where there is that type of light happening, that type of reflection that you're not getting the reflection making you look greasy. Whereas dewy makeup is more is better for day to day. That's when you're out in the world and people are like, oh my goodness, look at your skin. It just looks radiant. But you'll look like a greasy little pig on camera.
Yes.
So that's another big one.
Good to know. Yeah, I feel like probably most of our consumers at the store would be that everyday, like natural type
Yeah.
of glow, but it's really
But
good
they
to
get
know.
married too, and they get very upset when their wedding photography makes them look greasy because they're just using their natural makeup. And I have that all the time with brides that, or wedding parties or whatever. They're like, I was looking at my Christmas cards and I look so greasy in them. And it's like, yeah, because you're not wearing the right makeup for it.
Yes.
So
Okay.
you can have, or you're using whatever AnneMarie Berlin product you want, no problem. But there's two setting powders that are better for mattifying. So there is the talc-based pressed one
Yes.
that is wonderful for diffusing, and it is asbestos-free talc. So whatever makeup you normally use, you can just have that as a source, as like a resource in your drawer that maybe you've only bought it once if you bought it for an event, but anytime you're needing it for something like that, it's just there. It's not going to go bad. It's not going to have anything happen to it. It's just there. You might have one compact used for the rest of your life because you only do it on certain occasions with photography. You might have her use all the time because you do like a channel. So that is one thing I like to tell people that you might have, and there's nothing wrong with having a drawer of stuff that's for specific purposes. A lot of people get stuck in that mindset. Like, if it's not something I put on every day, I'm just not buying it. I don't want that around. You're like, yeah, but there's lots of reasons why you might have that for a specific purpose that's a lot more frequent in your life than you like to think.
Yes. And I think with having that pressed powder, it's really nice to kind of get the best of both. Like you can pick any
Yeah.
foundation, have that glowy look, but then also for those, odd occasions have more of that matte look.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Even just that you're going out somewhere hot,
yes.
like you're going to a theater and but you're going on a date and you don't want to look greasy throughout the day. You're going to be somewhere where you're like it's a restaurant, it's going to be hours and hours, or you just tend to get a bit of a shine. And there's just a reason why at that particular time, going out with friends, going out to an occasion, you just want it to sit better
Yes.
throughout the day.
Great tips. Now, for our listeners who are listening and thinking, okay, I need to start to make this transition away from conventional to natural makeup, where do you suggest they start with that transition?
So starting with skincare. Always start with skincare. It is the most important part because there is so many misleading things out there, and there's so many performance problems, and you can have where your skin goes into shock so easily because of different things. You've moved to a new area where the climate's different. You moved to an area where the water is different. Hard water and soft water can shock your skin. That you've had any kind of thing. A lot of people turn to natural makeup because usually of a health thing. Not necessarily that they're sick, but they're wanting to be healthier. They're wanting to, or they've seen some animal cruelty videos. There's something. There's almost always a thing that's, and unless they've been fortunate enough to be raised by someone who was always into it. But normally when someone just all of a sudden is like, I've decided now I'm going to do this. So I usually tell people, okay, chances are you probably got makeup still sitting in your house. You bought it, like whether you throw it away or not, it's your business. But so that your skin doesn't go into shock completely, stopping using the skincare regimen you were using because you're switching off that too. Transition with skincare first. Slowly bring in the makeup that you're trading over. Not everyone has the luxury of being able to just drop their debit or credit card down and buy a whole new regime of everything and toss every single thing out. Most people have to incorporate as it goes. And I always like starting people off unless they have incredibly sensitive skin. And I don't mean sensitive like there's conditionally sensitive and there's naturally sensitive, meaning that you're born with incredibly sensitive skin. You just have tons of allergies. You will always have problems. Then I would use the sensitive line, the ZZ sensitive, because they just will always have problems. But normally I would transition someone with the Aqua Nature line because that's the hydrating line. And everyone, everywhere, man, woman, anything, there is no such thing as enough hydration for your skin, which is also completely different than moisturizing. Hydration makes the fluid be between the living layers of the skin. Moisturizing sits on top of the skin. Moisturizer was made to make makeup go on better, just for comfort. But it was made for slip to make makeup go on better way the heck back when, early makeups. But hydrating is about making the skin more vibrant and plump and comfortable and taking away oil production. So the Aqua Nature line is my favorite one. It's my favorite hydrating line of any company I've ever used. And I come from the medical world. But then I started realizing how good the natural world is. And really you get companies like AnneMarie Borlind, we're like kind of a mismatch. Like they're kind of both. And a lot of medical companies have since about the 2000s have been doing that too. You look at ones that they're like, oh no, we use tons of natural ingredients. It's just we also use synthesized ones too. So there's all kinds of combos of lines that you get, but hydrating will keep your skin from going into shock.
Okay, good. And for our listeners, I think that's the perfect recommendation because also that's at the first layer of before you put on your makeup. It's a protective layer. It's what's going to absorb first. It's producing that protection as well.
Well,
So
and if you're trying to hide skin problems, wouldn't you want your skin to be better?
exactly.
Like just get better
Exactly.
skin. And then use makeup for what it's really meant for, to enhance the things you want to either detract or enhance about yourself instead of hiding everything. Skin cares to change your skin. Makeup is to make you feel comfortable and confident and more beautiful and happy. It's about that. Like eyeliner is to make your eyes pop, mascara is to make your eyes pop. Like foundation shouldn't be about, oh, I just really need to hide my bad skin, because people become so terrified of performance and coverage and having it come off because they're so afraid of someone seeing underneath. Then fix the skin.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. For those who are listening and thinking, okay, let's start making this transition. When you're starting to replace what you currently have, pop into one of our stores, talk to our cosmetic specialist or one of our amazing staff, and we can get you started with that journey right away. And then as you start to improve your skin quality, you're feeling more hydrated, more confident, then you can start to make the transition for the natural makeup. Like you said, the eyeliner, the mascara. I think the mascara would be a really good place to start if you're using conventional mascara.
Yeah, it sure is.
And then looking towards that foundation. So we've got
And
lots of.
anyone with mascara, if it does not last very well on you, just put some face powder on your eyes first.
Okay, great tip. Awesome. Well, Dayna, I want to thank you so much for sharing your wealth of information today. You have,
Oh, we could talk forever.
I know we
I
could.
could at least. I know I can.
There's so many things, sustainability, pigmentation, coverage, so many different things, but you have given our listeners a really great starting point on making the transition from conventional to natural products. And I really appreciate your time. So thank you so much.
All right, no problem. If you guys have any other questions, I'm available.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day, Dayna.
Thank you.
Quick disclaimer here, any information shared on the Wellness on Purpose podcast is not intended to treat, diagnose, or for the prescription of any medication. Please contact your healthcare professional before use and for further information. If you're still here, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. If you want to learn more about the topics that we covered in today's episode, as well as the products, you've got two options. You can head over to our Joanne's Place website to review the show notes. We'll leave that in the description below. Or you can pop into one of our Joanne's Place locations and talk to one of our amazing staff. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, go over to your preferred platform, follow our page, and then find us over on social media so you're notified as soon as a new episode is released. That's all for now, and we'll see you in the next episode.